So thank you so much for stopping by to my now ready podcast. I'm sorry for the wait.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
For having me.
I'm actually really excited because you are one of the guys who I found recently. So there are a few photographers who I've known for years, but then I feel like you came out of nowhere and just demolished everything you did
Yeah.
in a cool way. And so it's super exciting. And you shoot with a lot of people that I shoot with too. So I'm really excited for that. And they all have good things to say about you. So
It's good to hear.
there's no reason to not have you on the show. So I start off every single podcast with the same question. What is your go-to camera?
Well, we can get to go-to camera. I only have one.
Okay, what is your one camera?
But we'll talk about what I started with.
Okay, how's that?
There.
Yeah.
So the first camera that I ever had was a Nikon D3400.
Okay, not a bad start.
I was shooting with that for, probably about a year and a half.
Okay.
And surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, but surprisingly, I was getting like good results out of that too, because everybody always clowned me for it. Like, you have a Nikon for one, and then they're always like, "That's such an old camera, no autofocus, no nothing." It has autofocus, but like, it's just, it got the job done. You know what I mean? Eventually, I got a Nikon Z6.
Okay.
When that came out, I still got clowned for it.
What'd you get clowned for? By who?
Everybody who shoots Canon, everybody who shot Sony.
Probably. That makes sense.
Everybody.
And they're amazing cameras too. Their color profile is incredible.
That was my favorite thing about those cameras. Just straight out of the camera, the colors.
No, because in camera, like I look at my Sony pictures sometimes and it pulls burgundy so bad. I'm like, what is going on over here?
No, literally.
Like I'm scared to show the model. Like,
exactly.
Look at
you have
this.
to tell them that it's not going to look like this.
Right.
Like when you edit it,
Right.
because when I pull it up when I see it on the screen versus when I see it on like my computer, they're two different things.
Every single time, it's a pain in the ass, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because then you have to learn how to like work around and edit those colors and like finesse it in a way to where it just makes sense. You know? I ended up like scrapping Nikon.
Okay.
I shoot with Sony now.
So, wow, welcome to the club.
Yeah, I switched completely. Like I was gonna go for the Nikon Z7 too. That's what I wanted to upgrade to. But I think around the same time I saw like the Sony A1 come out.
Oof. It came out this year, right? Yeah, I think it's this year. Like the beginning of the year.
I think.
Yeah, it just came.
It just came out.
Oh, so you just made the switch?
Yeah. I literally like brand new, fresh. I think I didn't get it until this year. I think I had pre-ordered it. It was like announced in like December. I think that's when it was. But yeah, I made the switch and I bought that one. Probably wouldn't recommend going all in with a camera like that. It's a beast of a camera for sure. It does, pretty much anything that I wanted to do. But a little more on the pricey side.
You pay for what you want, you know?
Yeah, no, I ended up like selling all of my Nikon gear or trading it in, I think through Adorama or one of the services. And I traded all of my Nikon gear, my lenses, the camera, and then invested in just a 35 mil. And so I originally started for like the first like several months, I was only shooting like a 35. And I was also borrowing my homie's 50 mil on the side too. But eventually I needed, just because of like what I was shooting and stuff like that, I needed to like get a new lens. So
no, for sure.
now I shoot with the Sony A1, but I shoot with like the 24-70.
That's like the pinnacle. I think everyone I've had on the show shoots with the 24-70, regardless of whether they're Sony or Canon or whoever.
It's just,
it's the most versatile.
It's the most versatile,
us, especially what we do.
Like if you want to go shoot, whatever it is you want to shoot, you can shoot it. You know what I mean? Obviously, once you start getting a little more specific, then you might want to get a different lens. Like I was stressed like a couple months ago because I was shooting like a concert for Daddy Yankee for all that, and then I just didn't have like the right lens to use it. I had to go borrow like a 70 to the 200.
So where were you in the con, like compared to the Daddy Yankee? Like where were you on stage? Were you on the crowd?
I had an all stage pass.
Okay, so you're on stage.
The only thing they told me not to do was go on the stage.
Okay,
so
but you were all in front of him.
I was in front of the stage. I was around the crowd. I was everywhere. And so just when I was using the 24-70, there was no way I could see the stage.
Right, you were too far.
It's just too far.
Yeah.
So I had to borrow that. But
I remember we spoke about that, the 7200. Yeah. That's the lenses I want to get next.
That's what I was asking to borrow.
Yeah. Like I don't have one. I wish I had. What?
But my favorite lens is 35. It's always been the 35.
The 35.
It started with the 50, and then eventually I just the 35 is just like the perfect balance between like portrait and like storytelling.
Interesting.
So I feel like and then the 85 is just too much for me. It's just too much of a zoom. I like to use it for like headshots and stuff like that when I'm using like the 24-70, but I probably won't buy an 85 anytime soon.
Really? So I used the 85 exclusively for like 4 years. That's all I use for video, photo, everything was 85 millimeter. And but I started off with a 35. So before I used to do only video, and I had a 35 millimeter, and that's all I used for everything. For every video shot I did, I never took a photo, only the video. And it wasn't until I started doing photo that I switched to the 85. And so I started photography with the 85 millimeter, and that's all I used every single time. And so I was moving forward, moving back, and I started off with prime lenses. So I never had the luxury of being able to stay in one spot and still get the different like focal points.
I think it's better.
I like how I started that way, but I appreciate a zoom lens so much more.
For sure.
And then when I'm shooting video, I prefer a prime over a zoom when I'm shooting video.
I agree.
Unless you get in like those like in-camera effects where you're zooming in camera, but I'd rather do that in post anyway. But if I'm shooting pure video, I'd rather have a prime lens just because it's gonna force me to think more creatively with how I'm moving. And if I do want to get those dolly zoom shots, I have to force myself to do it myself. You know? And I have to think about shooting before I actually shoot.
I think it's also like a pain to like if you're on like a gimbal, which I don't even like do like my videos on like a gimbal. Well, only specific, like if I need a specific shot, then I'll do it like on a gimbal because I need to stabilize. But if I want a gimbal and I want to like adjust the lens, I just have to like keep restabilizing it.
It's a pain. It's a pain.
I prefer to use the prime lenses too all day.
How'd you like? I love talking tech, but I want to talk about you more. How'd you get started in this whole world?
So, I don't know if you saw it too. I actually did like a little behind the scenes thing with
I did, and I saw the post. I just never watched the video. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll remember. No, so it all literally started back in middle school. So I'm also like not so much anymore. It's something that I want to get back into, but I can touch on that later. So I was an artist. Like I drew. Okay. Like I drew Naruto.
You drew anime.
All kinds of anime back in the day.
Very cool.
Looking at it now, because how I knew that I kind of was like decently good at it was because I was actually selling my pictures.
Nice.
Looking back now, like from this day and age, like it was a scam. No, for sure.
You didn't even know it was gonna work.
No,
tracing
it's like no tracing. Okay. It was more like he shouldn't have been buying my pictures. Like I don't know why he was buying them. Like they were good, but I don't know. He was in middle school. I was in middle school, so we were young, and he just really liked them, and he was buying them. I just feel like he shouldn't have bought the pic. He could have spent his money on something else. But yeah, I started drawing back in middle school, and then I wasn't really like so far into anime. I only knew Naruto because it was on Toonami.
Right. You remember Toonami?
And then that's when I was watching like stuff like Bleach as well, and some of the other shows. And then, because I didn't know you could watch anime in other places. I didn't have like a computer, and at the time I still had like the Xenon slide phone.
Oh my god, you remember that? The sidekicks?
Sidekicks. And so when I got to high school, I learned that like Naruto is actually still going on because it stopped showing on Toonami. So I was like, okay, it must be done. And my friends told me, they were like, there's hundreds of episodes online and all that stuff. And eventually, like when we first got like our home computer, I started like watching stuff on there too. And I was like mind blown. But it wasn't really until then when I started getting more back into anime, which was like towards like middle to end of high school. In 2013 is actually when I was just scrolling through Vine when that was around. I just happened to be scrolling and I saw like somebody do like an anime edit of something that I watched. I think it was either like Sword Art Online or Plastic Memories or something, but I saw something and it was like sick. Yeah. And I just was like, yo, I want to do that. And so I Googled how to make, anime videos and stuff like that. And I saw all this stuff on like, what software people used and just how they downloaded the RAWs for the anime and stuff like that. I just Next thing you know, I'm an anime editor. And I did that up until, well, I did it all throughout Vine, which was like when I got to college.
Wait, did you post them on Vine?
Yeah, I posted them on Vine.
Very
I had
cool.
like 7,000 followers on Vine.
Very.
Nothing compared to like some of the other go-to blow up.
I mean, if you imagine that it was still around, you'd be huge right now.
No, because eventually, like when it ended in 2015, I moved to YouTube. So I started posting all my stuff on YouTube.
Are you still posting on YouTube?
No, not. I haven't posted on YouTube for like 2 years.
Okay.
I've posted like here and there on Instagram, on my own Instagram. Whenever I feel like just making an anime edit, I might just make one and throw it up. But I haven't posted on that channel for like 2 years.
Gotcha.
I think I had like 1.5K subs. And then I think my most viewed video had like 24,000 views.
Not bad.
Accomplishment for me.
Of course.
But yeah, so throughout college, I started anime editing while I was doing like track and field. That was like my sport. So I just kept doing that throughout the years. And then towards like the end of college, the same thing that happened to me with anime editing was the same thing that happened to me with photos. I was scrolling Instagram one day. I really wish I saved the photo, but it was some like underwater type of thing. And I don't know, I saw it and it just made me want to buy a camera. So I went back, like when I went home for like, I think it was like one of the breaks or something like that. I told my parents, I was like, or I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to get a camera. And she was like, for what? To take photos of what? People. Who? I don't know. People. And then, I can't remember when I got it. I think they ended up getting it for me, like for whether it be like my birthday or something. Then I took that back to school. Next thing you know, shooting all my friends, shooting as much as I could. YouTube University. And then a couple years later, now we're here.
Wait, so this happened what, like 2020, 2019?
So I've been shooting since 2018.
That's not bad at all.
So I think that's what,
4 years?
4 years?
4
I
years.
think it's 4 years. Yeah.
And so, what do you think? How do you think your style has changed from when you started to right now? Because you have a very unique style. You do a lot of cool work with like the film look almost, right? Like replicating that whole vibe too. But you're keeping it very portraity, which I like a lot. Like, what inspired that?
So I feel like, because for me, I never know what I like and what I don't like. I find, because for me, like, there are people who create their own presets, or like they might buy presets, to help them, whether it be like get a jump start on a photo or just, figure out who they are as like an editor. All of my photos are different.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I kind of just do what I feel in like that given moment. I kind of like, lately I've kind of been gravitating towards like adding a little bit more grain, but still trying to keep it sharp in a sense. Because I really do love the film look. Like, I think one of the big inspirations, at least on Instagram, for me to take that route is Kai Boet.
Kai Boet is incredible. His presets are awesome. His work is beautiful. Just the way he captures emotion, I think, is one of the best in the industry.
Exactly. That's like the way how I feel when I look at those photos. That's what I wanted to recreate for my images. And I feel like there's like a lot of contributing factors in order to make like you feel something in a photo.
100%.
I feel like it's not only just like the composition, how you shoot the shot, but I feel like it also comes down to like, of course, the model too, because like they have to be able to sort of like give off a certain vibe that you want to do. But I think the biggest thing comes down to it too, as well, is the editing. Because I feel like when anybody does like that whole grainy sort of vintage vibe, it gives you this kind of like nostalgic sort of vintage style of edit versus like doing something that's like super punchy or super, just whatever the opposite of that would be. So Kai Boet is probably one of those people who definitely inspired me to kind of do more of that route. But honestly, there are some photos where like I'm editing and I just feel like this would be more of a filmy one, or this one would be super sharp.
Interesting.
It just depends on like my mood. Cause like a like I said, all my photos are different.
Mhm.
I treat every photo different. Like I don't use presets.
Mhm.
I used to in the past because I actually bought Kai Boyd's presets a long
Mhm.
time ago back when I used Lightroom. Capture One now all the way.
Same.
Just to kind of get an idea of like how he kind of came across whatever vibe that he came across. But I also find it very hard for me to do it. So there are so for example, you can tell strongly when some people use, I guess you can say, more color or more grain than the next person. I kind of like to try to find a balance and keep it more closer to like the natural side of things. So
What do you mean
I
by
guess,
the natural side of things?
so a good example, some people who use like a phenomenal use of color, liquid verve or stills in color. Like if you ever look at their photos and you can see their color grading is like, it's very like, you can see it.
Yeah, it's very bright.
Whenever I'm editing, I've tried to go that route, but I can't because like I see it too much. Like, for example, if you want to convey maybe like sadness or like isolation or loneliness, you might push it more towards the blues and the teals. You know what I mean? Because colors, mean something. You might push it more towards the blues and the teals. So if you look at somebody like stills and colors photos, when he's doing specific colors, like you can clearly see that there's a lot more blue and teal in that photo. For me, whenever I try to do that, I'm like, dang, is this too much blue? Is this too much teal? So that's what I mean by not going so crazy with the colors, but kind of keeping it more in like the colors that you would normally like see on a regular basis, but like still adding like a little bit of like a twist to have it have a little bit more style.
Interesting.
But yeah, my brain goes everywhere with that. As far as style wise, I don't even know. It just comes from bits and pieces of like everybody and kind of.
So do you go into a shoot not having any idea of how you're going to edit the photos? Or do you have a preconceived idea of what you want out of the shoot and then how you're going to edit it?
I guess it really depends on what I talk about with the model. If I have like a specific mood board in mind or a specific like theme or vibe in mind, then sometimes I do know. Like there are times where I do know I really want this like this grainy, out of focus, moody looking shot. And I kind of like know the direction of like how I wanted to do it. But there are other times where like
you just wing it.
Yeah, I wing it. Like I know what I'm gonna do for the shoot, but I don't know how I'm gonna edit it.
Interesting. I think we spoke too about that before of you have like a mood board already like created. Like you have a bunch of mood boards and then you find models who would fit you think best in that mood board that you have. How do you go about that? Like do you spend like a whole day today I'm gonna make mood boards?
It's funny because you say that, but that's what I was doing earlier today.
Today's mood board day. Today's Wednesday.
No, I've been trying to find days to balance out, dedicating certain days to certain things. So that way I'm not always editing, because sometimes I find myself always editing and not getting like the business side of stuff done. But as far as the mood boards go, I only do, well, somebody posted something on Twitter that made me question if I should even be doing this.
Okay.
But I don't remember who posted it, but the tweet said something along the lines of, I don't understand why photographers, I don't know if they said use other people's photos for mood boards, or they might have said something like that instead of like create mood boards, but use other images as reference because you can never recreate a moment. And I was like, that makes a little bit of sense. Because I don't think you can, like, you'll never be able to replicate something that somebody did exactly.
Of course.
But it just had me like thinking to myself, well, should I even be like, I like their photos. Should I use that as a reference in my mood board?
Use it as a reference in your mood board. Don't lose it. Don't use that tweet. Forget whoever that is. Forget him.
No, it had me thinking in different ways. I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but as far as like making the mood boards go, I only really do it to like more or less for my clients. So like a lot of people always kind of come to me if I'm shooting like not like for a brand or something like that. People come to me asking, that they want to do a shoot, and I ask them if they have any ideas or any mood boards or Pinterest boards, that they might have. And a lot of them say no. I don't know what to do. I was hoping you'd have an idea. So I kind of put together like a general idea of like, okay, here's my beach inspo. Here's like my in studio inspo. Here's like my loungewear inspo. If you want to go that route, here's like your implied nude inspo, whatever the inspo might be. And then I'll shoot that to them. So that way they can get an idea of like, oh, this is what it might look like if I go to the beach. Oh, this is what it might look like if I go here. And so it was more of like a time saver for me. That's the reason I kind of like put those together.
Gotcha.
So that way when people reach out, I'm just like, here. Now, as far as like, yeah, exactly. As far as like my creative shoots go, I do have like a lot of stuff saved on Instagram, and sometimes I forget, and it's hard for me to kind of go through and look through that. So that's kind of why I put like some of my favorite images in a mood board. And I don't use it as like I want to recreate this to like the T, obviously not. I use it as like kind of like a guide. Like this is kind of like the direction I want to head in like the photo shoot.
Right.
And so what I've started to do now is like, if somebody wants to collaborate with me, or let's just say for people that I usually collaborate with, you know, people are always like, hey, let's shoot again sometime. Let's link up. Let's do this. I'm like, okay, let's figure it out. Back in the day, before I used to do this, I kind of just used to shoot like whatever, you know, I didn't really care like what it was for. I would just shoot it. If you had an idea, like you want to go to the beach and take pics, let's go to the beach and take pics. I'm over that. Cause I mean, it gets to a point where like my portfolio is like, I have a lot of that and I don't really necessarily need to continue to build it like that. You know what I mean? Of course, there's nothing wrong with going to the beach and taking photos. You know, I'm all for it still. And I'm all for like changing up how we do it by maybe like incorporating props or incorporating just different types of ways to shoot the beach. That's fine. But I use those mood board photos. Like I send the mood board to somebody and I'm like, yo, just circle some things that like catches your eye that you'd be like interested in, like maybe kind of like going for. And then whatever they circle, because I like to shoot like, you know, maybe like 2-3 at the most looks when I go to my photo shoots. Okay. And so I kind of like build a photo shoot around what it is that they might be interested in. So like if they circle X, Y, and Z, I'm going to be like, okay, let's try to create something out of this. So like we'll take like the same similar idea and then kind of like build around it, see what we can add to it, see what we can do different, see what time of day we can shoot it at, see how we can just amplify it and then try to make it a little bit more different. You know what I mean? So I use that as like, it's just stuff that like I see that I wanted to kind of like shoot, and I kind of like use those to do my shoots and stuff like that.
I like it. I think it's a really good idea. So like I don't have a mood board like you do, but I do have just a bunch of saved, like depending on like a theme that I want to do, and I save them for myself really. Are you making the mood board for like collabs or for paying clients who really don't have any idea of what they want to do?
Most of those are for collabs.
Gotcha.
Most of those are just for people who want to link with me and they want to shoot.
Right.
And we just kind of collab on like an idea. So I kind of, instead of, because usually even with my collabs, people are still coming asking like, what should we do? As much as like, you know, I prefer it to be, you know, like a 50-50 collaborative thing. Because sometimes I just get so busy where like I can't be like, I'm down to shoot, but like I can't like look it up. You know what I mean?
You can't do everything.
Yeah, I can't do everything, you know? And so when they're always coming to me, you know, asking like, what do we do? I'm like, oh, come to me. I thought you like had some sort of vision in your head so we can kind of like put it together.
Right.
So I kind of have used that as like okay, here's what I'm interested in shooting. Let's see what, like, if there's anything that you would also be interested in shooting. So I'm not going to just send them, hey, I want to shoot this, because they might not want to shoot that. So I try to give them at least some sort of option so that way they can feel as if they're still a part of like that creative selecting process to see like what it is that we might want to do that might look good for like what it is that we're going for, you know? Yeah,
definitely. I like that. I want to ask you, like, I want to go back to when you mentioned Kai, because he's one of the guys too whose work I really admire. And go back to what we were saying about emotion, because I'm at the point now personally, and maybe you can help me with that, where when anybody wants to shoot with me that isn't a paid shoot, for example, one of the first things I look at on the photo that they have already is, can they convey emotion? Right, the model. Do they have the expertise of being able to use their face? Right, because everyone we shoot is beautiful. We're always around beautiful people. But I want to get emotion. So like, I don't even look at following anymore. I look at, can you convey
For sure.
an emotion that I haven't seen yet, or can you convey an emotion that fits the scene, or convey an emotion that fits the outfit, or whatever the case is? Because I feel like that's very difficult to do. One, to capture, and then two, to actually release those kinds of emotions.
No,
And so something that I'm working on now too, especially with my most recent shoots, is trying to communicate and direct in a way that I can get those emotions. Like I want to feel the image before I even take it. Like I want to feel the mood before I even take it.
Yeah.
And that's something that's been difficult for me. It's like I'm still learning how to do it. I'm still processing it. And I think it's a challenge too that the models appreciate too. When you're saying, look, you can wear a turtleneck, right? But I want you to be able to convey this emotion,
with that turtle.
you know, whatever, because Miami is very used to, we're all swimwear and lingerie and stuff like that. So, which is great, right? But I'm at the point now where I want to do more like creative projects when it comes to conveying emotion. And that's what I'm looking for in a model now. Like whenever I get a DM, like, hey, let's work. I would love to. Can you do this kind of stuff too? Yeah. It's like, it's nothing about your body per se, but it's all about being able to release an emotion that I'm looking for, whether it's sadness, happy, weird, whatever the vibe may be. And do you feel like you look for that too when you're shooting with models?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's, part of the reason why I said, like, I don't just like to go to the beach and just like, when I get hit up, hey, can we like collab? And they're just like, yeah, I just thought we could go to the beach and take pics. And like, usually those are more of like the individuals who, they look good in front of the camera, but they don't convey that same sort of like emotion and stuff like that. So I'm definitely looking for the same.
How do you direct that? How do you direct emotion like yourself?
So, and by no means am I perfect at it either. And I don't always tell stories in all of my photos like I would want to, but I think the best way to do that, that works for me, is to not make it so posy. So like, I'm all for candid. Right. I like anything candid vibes. And so you try to, and then you have to kind of like shoot it in a way that makes sense. So for example, if I were to go to the beach, right? The quickest way to, obviously, if you look at the camera and you pose for the camera, that gives you a certain type of vibe, whether it be like a model vibe or like, a cute vibe or whatever you're trying to go for. But I feel like once you start, kind of focusing less on shooting them as like a model, but more as just like a person, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So like if you were to go to the beach, right, by yourself, you're at the beach, what do you usually do at the beach? So say you might walk up to the water, crouch down by the water, and you might just like look at the fish, or you might just run your hand through the water. So I kind of use what people would normally do on their own and just kind of like direct it like that. So like, for example, if I were to shoot something like that, I would think about it like this from like a storytelling perspective. I would maybe shoot the first frame super wide. They're not even looking at the camera. They're looking out into the water, being all dramatic, or looking down towards the sand.
Being all majestic.
Exactly. And I might shoot a wide frame that kind of gives you like an idea of like what's going on, like an establishing shot. And then the next frame, I might get a little bit tighter. You might see the full body. They're still crouched down. They're just looking down at the water, hands in the water, just kind of like moving around. And then from there, I might get like a closer shot of like their face while they're still looking at the water, playing with the water. And then I might take a picture of their hand, while they're still like, playing with the water. I feel like that's something that people do, not that specifically, but I feel like that would be like a motion that somebody does at the beach when like nobody's around looking, when they're just by themselves or with their friends. You're just kind of like hanging out, just, chilling, not so worried about like, oh, somebody's watching me, somebody's taking a picture of me, somebody's trying to like capture something, you know what I mean? You're kind of just in your own vibe. But I feel like for starters, like just making them look away from the camera is how I direct with like, that's like step one for me for like conveying just different types of emotions that I want. I just have them try to like not focus too much on the camera, because when they focus on the camera, they just get too posy.
Right.
And then, I just try to make them do things that they would normally do if they really had something with them, like if they had a prop or if they had something else.
Do you bring the props, or do you like find things in the area? You're like, oh look, a rock.
I had told somebody to, just go pick up a shell.
Yeah.
And they weren't like picking up the shell, but they literally just went down and picked up the shell, and I just took a couple frames of that. And right there alone, it was kind of a moment in itself, because however they naturally just picked up the shell, it just gave it it was just a different vibe. It wasn't so posy, it wasn't forced. It was just you being you in like a natural kind of element. So I feel like having people not focus so much on the camera and just kind of do more candid, natural things is like one of the ways that I can direct people to kind of convey a different kind of emotion. Now, if you're trying to convey different kinds of emotions while you're looking at the camera, to be honest, I don't even know how you teach that. I feel like that comes real natural for some people, because there are some people that I've shot and I shoot them for that reason, is because like whenever I see them take photos, they just give off this mood that like it's so different from like your typical pose model in a sense.
Elaborate on that, because I like that, because it's something that I look for as well. Yeah,
it's like I couldn't even like describe it. Like there was somebody that I just posted today.
Shout her out, bro. Shout her out.
My homie Olivia, yo. Olivia E. Jimenez. Shout out to you, yo. You're fire. No, she's super dope. And I always tell her, I was like, you just have this vibe about you. And she's like, what does that mean? Because she thought I was like insulting her or something. And I was like, no. I just say the way you're just comfortable with like how you look in the camera, how you kind of like just how your facial expressions are, and just the way you kind of like carry yourself in your images. Like I've always tried to like think about how to explain that, because some people just get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like some people just know themselves, and I mean, to an extent, they know they look good, and they know they can pull it off. But I feel like it's just one of those things where some people get it and some people don't. Maybe you can learn it.
I think you can. That's actually what I want to ask you. Like, I think you can learn that. I think that's a lot of practice, one. And then, so somebody taught me this too. And I do a little bit of modeling. I'm not going to shout myself out, right? But I do it. But the reason why I started doing it was because I wanted to know what it was like to be directed.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I was being directed by somebody else, I was able to use that and be better at directing the people I shoot. That's one of the reasons why I started modeling. And what I learned is that emotion is, you have to actually feel that emotion for a second.
True.
Right? In order to convey that, you have to at least know what it's like to have felt that. Right. So if you ask a model, okay, I want you to be, give me more of a sad look, right? How do you direct sadness? Okay, think about something sad. Think about something that upsets you, right? And then you're naturally, the moment the thought comes in, your face is going to change to accompany that emotion, right? Yeah. And it's subtle, and then you got to keep that. So it's weird. So that's how I learned to teach emotion. So it's like, cool, I want you to be angry. What do you mean be angry? Imagine I yelled at you. Yeah, and then, but that's what we were looking for. Yeah. Even if it isn't quote unquote sexy, right? Yeah. It's a real emotion. And then again, combining it what you said, composition, editing, lighting, whatever, then you can really express that and bring that emotion out more in a photo. Yeah. Right? Or I want you to look like you're confused. So looking for something, right? When you're confused and you're looking around, you're lost. You're not posing, right? Your neck's a little higher because you're looking over whatever it is that you're looking for. Your eyes a little bit wider. And that's a natural emotion, to be confused or lost, right? And so what I do is I get the model in that mindset. Okay, cool. You're looking for somebody. You're looking for your little brother. You can't find him anywhere. You're a little bit lost. And then naturally they're going to move to replicate that emotion. And the reason being, they felt that before, right? The idea of being lost and not knowing what to do. And so that helped me like to better direct, and then being told that,
No, that's really good. Yeah. There are some of those, maybe not your brother is lost. I don't think
that's just one I just threw out there. Hopefully your brother doesn't get lost.
But no, there have been times. I mean, there are definitely times where I guess like subconsciously, like I probably say and use some of those analogies and terms without even like really thinking about it actually. to kind of help like guide the idea in the scene for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of those things that I really like when I see Kai Boat's photos. I don't know if you've ever seen like the ones where he just does the portraits,
Yes.
just the heads.
Yes.
Usually they're all like personality pictures.
Mhm.
When he's doing people like people are like grinning, angry, smiling, laughing, crying. Like those are just
They're peak.
he's really, really good at that.
There's a photo that comes to mind instantly whenever I think about Kai, and he's on a railroad track, and the girl's laying down across the railroad track, and her head's on the rails, and the first picture she's looking straight up, so it's like a side profile, and then she's turned and looking at him, and it's very he loves his green, so it's very green and purple in the shadows, and it's just very, very moody. And then another set is that same girl inside the train now, right? And then he just goes along the progression that way. And I've always wondered, like, yeah, capturing emotion is like being able to direct emotion and capturing it is one thing, but then when you edit to fit the emotion too, like it's so much goes into it, right? When it comes to even just bringing a composition like that to life. Because again, the shooting is only one part of it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we meet up, we go to the shoot, we take the photo, but that's only the first half. Now it's calling all the images and then figuring out and asking yourself, what mood do I want to convey here?
Yeah.
Like it's so a lot of people who aren't photographers or who aren't models, they don't realize how much work goes into being able to showcase an emotion and complete it. Like,
and then sometimes what's crazy is that like, I mean, it could be wrong on like the editing part.
Mhm.
I don't know. But I feel like because back in the day, well, I guess, yeah, it's probably like because my editing wasn't where it was now. But I know sometimes I would get those questions of like, well, do you think the photo is too blue? Do you think
like they would ask you that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think it's too green? You know? And then I'm like, is it? Is it? It's probably one of the other reasons I keep it so natural, because I feel like, I mean, I feel like at least for Miami's standards, because, you know, being that it is a lot of swimwear and a lot of things, you kind of like look for a different style of editing. But I feel that people don't necessarily appreciate it as much in a way. I guess maybe not like appreciate like the creative side of it too much. Which is why they question like, is it too green? Is it too yellow? Is it too blue? Or maybe it's just not, the edit wasn't done right. Maybe it just didn't convey the emotion that it was supposed to convey. You know what I mean? I feel like, and that's why one of the things too, like color is like such an important like role when it comes to those emotions. Like, you know, I also bought like Liquid Verb's tutorial back in the day because, you know, I was heavily influenced by her and her compositing. Fire. But, you know, she had talked about like how she had, you know, she watches a lot of movies and gets inspired by a lot of different things like that, and how color plays like such an important role when it comes to like talking about a story or a mood, because every color means something different, you know. I don't know. Editing is tricky sometimes. People either they love it or they hate it.
Does that upset you when you put in work on a style or a set and maybe your emotion that you were trying to convey doesn't get received in the way that you had it in mind? Or are you taking it more like a learning thing? Like, oh, maybe I fucked up. And
I usually take it more as like a learning thing. But then I also remember that, like, you know, everybody has their own taste, their own flair. I think it's more upsetting, not necessarily upsetting, but like when people reach out to shoot with you, they kind of like have to have already scrolled your page, you know, and they kind of should know
your style,
what you're going to bring to the table. You know, I've seen, not me personally, but I've seen other instances where, like, you know, people reach out and they're like, oh my God, I love your work. And then all of a sudden they're like, they don't like the edits that they were provided because it doesn't match their feed or match their aesthetic or their vibe. And so I look at their DMs and I'm like, well, you knew who you were shooting with. You've seen his page. You should know like the consistency that you're going to get with, you know, XYZ. But I've never taken it kind of personal. I mean, it doesn't really happen too often now, fortunately, because I've kind of like refined how I like to edit. Every now and then I kind of like to, explore and tweak things, but I usually only do that with people that like I know that I shoot with or a lot, or like I've worked with a lot, because they're open to everything. So I don't really take too much offense to it, but I back in the day I used it as more of like a learning curve. Like, okay, well, why don't I like this heavy? Oh, maybe the skin tones are too off. Oh, maybe like this color is actually a little bit too strong. Oh, I didn't realize I changed the color of this when it should have been this. There are times where like some people don't like. I try to find the balance between smoothing skin and not smoothing skin. But I've worked with some people who are like, yeah, can you like dial it down a little bit, or kind of make it more like it's no smoothing at all, kind of sort of.
What do you like?
What do I like?
Like so let's say like you have complete control over the beginning and end of a shoot, the location, the person you're shooting with, your team, the outcome of the pictures. If everything lines up well, the budget, everything lines up well for you for a shoot, right? Like what is like? Give me the ideal scenario.
Ideal scenario.
Location doesn't matter. You can be anywhere in the world. Like, what's the ideal location and scenario for a shoot if everything goes your way?
Well, first of all, I'd probably be shooting in Japan.
Okay, there we go.
I'd probably be shooting in Japan. I mean, I don't know. As a whole, I would feel like the ideal perfect shoot would just be me shooting in Japan. Perfect communication as far as like what it is that we're going to shoot, how we're going to shoot it, when we're going to shoot it, what time of day we're going to shoot it, on time. You know what I mean? And I mean, I don't know. As far as like shooting goes, it's pretty much like the generals, but like maybe like in a sense of like editing, I would probably just prefer it. See, that's interesting, because like I don't have a preferred, like whatever the photo comes out as is like whatever my mood is, you know what I mean?
At the time of shooting,
at the time,
or time of editing. I mean,
yeah, the time of editing. Like I don't really have like whatever I feel is kind of how it comes out. So I couldn't really like give you like a specific on it would need to look like this or be like this. I don't know. Shoots are kind of like go with the flow.
Right.
You just kind of see what comes out of it.
You know what's funny? I've asked that question, I think, almost every single guest that I've had, and nobody's answered that question.
That's a hard question there.
It is. And what I've gathered from that, and from every single person who's given me almost the same answer, is that we care less about controlling everything and more about the relationship that we have with the people we're shooting with. Right? The way that the things flow, the way that we deal with whatever issues there may be. We, as creators, we care more about being able to gel well with our team and being able to create something that we're both proud of, regardless of the situation, regardless of location, time of day, all those things. Like those are all variables that we got to deal with regardless, right? But as long as the communication is there between us and the person we're shooting with, and that we're all vibing well, and we deal with whatever we got to deal with at the moment. But that's what's more important. Like you can put us anywhere in the world, and as long as you and the client are matched together, that's all we care about.
Yeah, because I feel like the shoots, the best shoots are the ones where everybody's on the same page, everyone's having a good time, and the line of communication is clear. You kind of know what you're getting into from the jump, and it's easy to like get in, bang it out, and get out. You know what I mean? And it's still a fun experience. Like you can tell when something is off. Like if somebody's not feeling this or somebody's not feeling that, you can kind of like get the vibe, and that kind of like throws everything off. And then you get to the end of the shoot questioning like, well, did they actually enjoy the photo shoot? And then like even through like the picking the picking process, like when models pick the photos, or just through communication, you can kind of just see like if it went well or not. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And I feel like when I enjoy a shoot, when I know we got out there and like we did some work, I'm excited to go home and edit. Definitely. I'm excited to go home and like put together this 2-minute video that's going to take me 18 hours to do. But I'm excited to do it. And it makes me like eager to see what the outcome of those photos are, because like they were giving it their all. I was giving it my all. Cause like, I feel like with every shoot, like you should be giving it like 100% as a photographer for sure. Like you shouldn't like be in it like halfway. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so when I feel that same energy from the model, like they're coming here and like I'm ready to go. You know what I'm saying? It just works.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that 100%. I think that's how it should always be, though, and especially as when you agree to shoot with somebody, it's an agreement whether it's through text or Instagram, whatever the case is. You're agreeing that for that hour, those 2 hours, you guys are there for each other to create something special. Right? And so why not? At the end of the day, it's your time, right? So why not give 100% of your creativity and of your energy to creating something that you guys are going to take back and look back at for forever almost,
Exactly.
right? Like you're capturing moments, and I think you mentioned this in the very, very beginning. You're capturing a moment that will never be recreated, right? A moment that people are going to have you on their mood boards, they're going to have you on their guides.
It'll be somewhere.
You're gonna be seen, you're gonna be saved, you're gonna be shared, you're gonna be commented on. Why not go there with 100% intention to create something special? Because again, you're never gonna have that moment of time again. You're never gonna have that time of day. You're never gonna have that wardrobe. Those emotions are always gonna be there for that moment, right? And so that's how I've been looking at every shoot so far. And it took me a little while to get to that point. Because it is a moment of time that you're capturing, and that's some issue that I have with, not an issue, but like that's something that I self critique, one, myself, and two, like other photographers when I hear crazy stories, like not delivering pictures, for example, or not promising something and then doing something completely different, or selling photo on the side. Like you hear these crazy things in the industry, and it's like, for at the end of the day, all you can do is do the best that you can. Right? So might as well do the best that you can in that situation and give good work. And at least you know that you did the best that you could. The person you may be shooting with may not feel that way, whatever the case is, but you know yourself, you did the best that you could for that moment. You were 100% yourself, and you created something special for that person. Now, whether or not it's reciprocated the way you expected it to be, it doesn't always happen, right? It's normal. But at least you know you did the best that you could.
Exactly.
No,
I know we've had some conversations in my DMs where I'm just like, ranting about it.
All you can do is the best you can. That's all you can do, and you give 100% of yourself.
And even through those bad, I wouldn't say bad, but like those not so like good experiences. I try my best to, if something changes or if somebody just completely like 180s it, I still try to keep it to a point where like I'm not gonna blacklist you. I'm not gonna call you out on it, because at the end of the day, it's still, I feel like even if you aren't in the wrong, people can still make it out to you being in the wrong, because you're the photographer. That's just how it goes. So at the end of the day, I still try to keep it like, even if things didn't go the way it should have, or even if like they didn't do exactly what we planned on doing, hey, it's okay. It is what it is. We're gonna get through it. We're gonna keep doing it, and it's gonna continue the same way it started. It started when we were in the DMs. You know what I mean?
100%.
But I might not shoot with you again.
And that's okay, But for the moment that you guys did shoot together,
right there, keep it professional, so that way like they don't have any negativity towards me. That way everything still flows smoothly, and then we can still leave on a good note. It's just
it's just sweet.
We're not gonna go past there.
What's been your favorite shoot recently?
Favorite shoot? Recent, honestly. Okay. It's we shot it 2021.
Okay.
In December. Shout out to my homie Ella Mendelson. You know who you are. You're lit. Honestly, that was a shoot at the beach. She came from New York. I think it was New York. And was staying in Naples. And so I went over to Naples to shoot with her.
You drove to Naples from here?
Yeah, I drove to Naples from here.
Dedicated. I like that.
Look, that set went crazy. I mean, honestly, that's like my most popular video on like YouTube right now. Still my most popular photo. I think it got like 100,000 likes. It's kind of crazy.
Describe the day for me. And the outfits and everything. Yeah,
so it wasn't, I know she was only here for like a day. So like, and she had like hit me up and was like, hey, I'm actually going to be in Florida. And I was like, yo. And so it was one of those where like, we didn't plan any outfits specifically. Or I think we might have planned a few. I can't exactly remember. But it was more of those like, I'm going to go out there and we're going to wing it.
My favorite.
No, and I just know we were gonna do it during the sunset,
Hmm.
and the sunset over there because it sets on the west side is like phenomenal. Um, yeah, so
Sunset is behind, so you're facing the ocean. It's behind.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So I mean, I just went over to Naples and we shot 3 looks. One was blue, one was I forget the other color, and then one was like a more of a casual outfit. And I think those were some of like my best beach photos because I don't think I've ever I don't know, I was experimenting with those like as far as like editing goes and like I mean they just came out really, really good. And Ella is one of those people who like I don't have to tell a thing to.
Right.
I don't have to say a word. I still, I still do because like I still want to like direct certain movements and direct certain motions. But
Mhm.
she's like too perfect in front of the camera as when it comes to photo and video. So like,
What makes her perfect?
so about like the expressions we talked about, she's one of those who can kind of, if you want her to convey an emotion, like if you want to tell her to like smile, be happy, or just fake laugh. She can
She can just pull it out.
she can fake laugh without like making it look like a fake laugh.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or, and then I think she's somebody that knows like herself and like her own like angles in her own body because she just posing. Like I might have to make like several adjustments here and there, but that's like natural because as a photographer, the model can't see themselves, so you have to have to help
Right.
that out. But it's a collection of basically what we talked about in the beginning. Like it's just one of those things where she just really had it all put together. And when I tell you like the shoot was effortless, I mean, it was just effortless. Like I went out there, shot the shot. We went from point A to point B. I mean, I might have told her what to do here and there. Like for me to be able to shoot photo and video in the same day within the same sunset and capture all 3 of those looks in 3 different spots, photo and video too, like no, like it just went super smooth, so like
Did you work with her before, or was that the first time?
no, the first time
Also, you already have experience working with her before, and
so I had experience working with her with another friend of mine.
Okay.
I met her through that friend.
Gotcha.
Shout out to Azaria. So I met because I shot them together.
Mhm.
And then I'm pretty sure that was the second time I shot her. So when she was coming back. And so we just connected and we were like, yeah, let's just do a shoot. And so like, that was the first real time I worked with her by herself. And it just worked out. So I think that's probably like one of my favorite shoots of like all time, just because of the combination of like it being so effortless and me getting so much like footage and content out of it that I was able to like put together in a way that just it fit the vision that I was going for.
I want to like develop that because I've had shoots like that as well, where it's like everything's just perfect.
Mhm.
And for me, that's only happened when I've shot with a person before, right? When I know like we both know how we work. Right? Like I know her angles already. She knows my way of shooting, and you can shoot 5 looks if you want to in a day, and it's just like it's clockwork almost. And I think the goal for every photographer, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is to have that happen all the time. Like to have effortless communication and you guys just gel well together. And like there are certain models that I've met the first time we shoot and we just make amazing work, right? And then there are other ones that take a little bit more effort. They're still great shoots, but it's not the same flow that we're discussing.
I feel like that might come with like, I feel like that might come from both the photographer and the model in a
definitely.
sense. Because like for me, when it comes to like all of my photo shoots, like, well, I'm gonna say this now and then it doesn't happen, but I usually can like I can make people laugh like right out the jump. Like my goal for people that I don't know is to like make you feel as comfortable as possible.
Right.
Like with me and when I get out there, I'm explaining from the jump. Like when I pull out the camera, I'm like, okay, this is how it's gonna go. Have you ever like modeled before? You know what I mean? Like if they never like genuinely been.
Walk me through the conversation. I want to hear it. I want to hear the conversation that you give people. I'm the model, all right? You're shooting with me. Walk me through it.
No, I literally will start like the camera's out. We're on the beach. We're ready to go. I'm like, all right. So have you ever modeled before?
Yes, I've modeled before.
Perfect. Cool. So I'm not going to tell you anything. We're going to figure. You just laughed. Exactly. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Obviously, I'm kidding. I say I'm kidding.
Okay.
But I just tell them, okay, cool. So you kind of like already have an idea of like what exactly it is that we're going to do. So I try to make it simple for them and make it easier to start. You know, I let them know too, like, hey, look, I'm going to direct you regardless of like what you know how to do or not. That's fine. But if you feel it, like if you want to move, you don't have to wait for me. You can turn, you can look down, you can look up, you can move your arms, you can move your hand, you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to direct you. But like if you feel it, every time you hear like the click, you know, by all means, do what you want to do. That's cool. And then I kind of like break it up for myself in the beginning because I feel like no matter how comfortable you are or who it is, at least from who I've worked with, the first like 5 minutes of the shoot, you know, you're just kind of like getting acclimated.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like break it up myself into sections, you know. I might start super simple and shoot only like, you know, two-thirds, right? Yeah. 2/3. And I might just keep it there. So that way they don't have to worry about their legs. They don't have to worry about, you know, certain things. I just tell them to keep their arms above their waist because I'm not trying to cut off their fingers.
Smart. I like that.
So I kind of like
here.
Yeah, so exactly. So keep them up in this vicinity.
Oh, okay. I'm learning why you're directing me now.
And if they've never modeled before, I start them off super basic, and I try to tell them like, look, this is essentially how you pose. You can start with the L shape. This is like the most basic. Everybody knows how to do the L. You know what I'm saying? And then I guide them from there.
Now what do I do?
You can either keep your hand here on your face. You can let it float. You can bring it across your chest. That's just one set of variations.
I feel very, very sassy right now.
Now you can let it float, and now you can turn your head. That's another pose right there. Okay. You can put it across your chest. You can look down. You can look left. Wow. Right, left, up, down. And then you can switch arms. You can bring your arms up here. Like you just kind of like, you build off of like what it is that you kind of see, you know?
I love that. So you're the reason why I tell people don't ever do this anymore. Because everyone does it now, man. It's so common. Put your hands down.
Man, I don't think when was the last time I posted a post like that?
It's been everyone, this is the go-to.
That's how
it's the beginning. Everyone starts off like this right here.
No, I mean, even when I tell like photographers, like when people ask me, it's like, so how do you get better at posing? I mean, first of all, like shoot.
Yeah.
For one, like for me, my first time like trying to tell a model how to pose, you know, I was at my first shoot ever. It was with a good friend of mine. So like I wasn't like stressed, but I was stressed. So I got to the location and I get to the location early. So I got to the location and I was on my phone on YouTube, how to pose models, trying to remember everything that I was just looking at. So that way when I get out there, I got it, you know?
I've done that before too.
But yeah, no, I mean, what I tell people now is just to find, like, if it helps you in the beginning, find 2 or 3 go-tos.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is an easiest go-to. And then build off of that pose, you know? That's how you find more poses. So that way the model is not just sitting here like this. Because what I see that, like, some newer photographers do, or just even some experienced ones, you know, they're taking photos and not saying a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's super awkward.
Yeah, they're not saying anything. And they're expecting, yeah, you can do that. Oh, and the models are kind of just like, where do I go from now? Especially if they never like modeled before. Right. But I tell them, I'm like, listen, you got to be talking the whole way through. Like, communicate your vision. Because like I said, they can't see themselves. Right. You have to put them in, especially if they don't know, you have to kind of like mold them in a way that looks like flattering. So I tell them, like, look, have your go-tos. Start with this. What can you do from here? Like I said, it's just not subject to moving your arms. You can.
I like this thing though. Here, you got a little attitude going on.
Well, listen, I mean, more masculine chin down, more feminine chin up type of vibe. You know what I mean? But yeah, you have your go-tos and you just kind of play off of those, and then it's the same thing when you're doing, and that's like the easiest to do when you're doing like 2/3. When you're standing, you know, it gets a little bit more challenging because you have more to work with, but it's the same deal. You know, you can bring your leg out, you can bring your leg in, you can twist it out, twist it in, like just, and then on top of that, no legs. You can just, don't forget your head is there. You don't have to look at the camera the whole time. Yeah. You can look somewhere else and then put that arm there. You can look somewhere else and then put that arm there. You know what I mean? It might give you a different mood, a different vibe, a different emotion every time. And I feel like, you know, in every model is going to be different. Like, sure, somebody might put their hand up here. Like 3 models can do it side by side, but probably one of them is going to look the best doing it.
True.
And I feel like everybody's going to be different. So if you find yourself like going back to it, I don't think it's like necessarily a bad thing,
Definitely.
especially if it's like a starting point go to. But that's what I use to like warm up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not, you probably won't see a photo like this on my page.
I hope not. I'm gonna call you out.
Now I have to look and everything. But that's just like how I kind of like start off my photo shoots, especially with people who don't know how to model. Start off like that, tell them like boom, 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 boom. And then I'm always actively like communicating back and forth, like, hey, let's do this, do that, do this, do that, turn this way. And then even like with the eyes, you got to go in, like, you can't, like, if I have them look away, it might look weird if they're just kind of staring out. So I have them look down, and it kind of gives more of like that mysterious, like internal sort of like feeling, you know what I mean? Every little detail counts.
I like it. No, it makes a lot of sense. And something that takes time to develop. I feel like that's the pinnacle of a photographer. It's his ability to direct. And being able to, again, convey that emotion, convey that story and that expression, especially to somebody who's never modeled before. Like, you're a better man than me. I tried to avoid models who've never modeled before. Not because anything is wrong with them, but because there are times where I don't even trust myself, right? Like, again, it's on me. Like, it's all self-critical. It's sometimes I assume that I'm shooting with somebody who knows. And so when I figure, like, and you can tell when someone doesn't know what they're doing, right? On both sides, on the photographer and on the model. And if you're model and the guy is, 10 minutes trying to figure out his f-stop, the guy's never shot before, right? Same thing with a model, and then she's just standing there looking awkward, right? You can tell that they're not as comfortable in front of the camera. And so it's your job to be a director now, more than it is to be a photographer. Because something I realized too, like, I've shot with models, and I have friends of mine now who I started working with when they didn't know how to model, and now they're amazing models, right? And they take what you say and they'll grow with it. And it's cool to see that transition, right? But if you start off and you're teaching them the wrong thing, they're going to take the wrong thing and go with that as well. And so it's a lot of pressure, man. I don't know if I can handle all that. That's a lot. I've done it before, but it's like, damn, I get scared. I don't want to mess up.
I feel that. But like, I feel like, especially with, photography too, you can't really like, I guess you can mess up, but like,
I feel like you can mess up. I mess up all the time.
You can take another photo though. That's what I was about to say. Is like, if you mess up on that photo, we don't have to show them that one. We can show them the next one.
There we go. The next 30,000 photos you take.
Exactly. But no, the only tip that I can give to like anybody with that is literally just shooting. Like, the only way for you to be a better communicator is just to keep shooting and actively like try to communicate.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how some people get by and just like not. When I hear those kinds of stories about like people like, yeah, my photographer is like silent. It's
awkward.
It's weird for me to hear, because like even in the very, very beginning, maybe because I was so stressed and trying to make it right, like I was never silent. I was always trying to talk. Now there are some instances where, especially in the early days, where like I didn't know how to describe what it is I want to do. And I also didn't do everything. You know what I mean?
You gotta do it all.
No, now I do it all. Like,
you gotta get on the floor, you gotta pose out, shoulders gotta move, neck.
It's funny because every model is like, you should be a model, because like I'm doing every pose before they are.
You have to.
You have to.
I feel like that's a prerequisite. I can't ask a model to pose a pose that I can't do myself.
Exactly. Like, I might not look good doing it.
Not look good doing it, but I won't make it happen.
Do it. Exactly.
Make it work. That's how it should be, though. Honestly, it should be.
Speaking of f-stop, where do you like to sit at?
So I feel like I'm growing. I'm a growing boy, and I got to the point now where I don't go below f4 unless I have to, because I'm sort of past the whole blurry background. Like, I was in Utah last week for a shoot, and the canyons there are insane. The deserts there are insane. Anything lower than f4 would be like a crime against myself. Going all the way to Utah, not seeing a background, not to see the. But again, I think that's a mistake that every young photographer makes. Is like, if my lens goes to 1.8, I'm shooting at 1.8. Yeah. Or I'm shooting at 1.2 because I can, And you got it. You got the blurry background in the back, and that's how I started shooting as well. I started everything with 1.2, 1.8, 2.0, like, just because I thought that was what it is. And it wasn't until I started seeing photographers who I admired the most and watching them edit or asking them how they got a shot. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. So this is where we're at. And the more I want to get detail, so I'm going to increase my f-stop so I can get that detail that I'm looking for. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. And I'm like, what about the blurry background? I'm like, fuck the blurry background. Like, that's not the point of the photo.
Most of my Yeah, most of my shots now are not lower than 3.5.
Yeah, I don't go lower than 4 anymore.
I feel like I took it to heart because it was something that which changed it changed a lot for me because like I feel like even when showing the background, me personally, I feel like that it helps tell more of like the story too because like
Definitely.
you can actually see where you're at, what's going on. It's like that, like you're establishing like, hey, like this is where I am, and you can kind of see it. You
Right.
don't have to see it like completely F-22, but like you see it. You know what I
That'd be
mean?
kind of nice though. F-22. You need some light though. You need some lights everywhere. I've never shot F-22.
I mean, I'm never gonna either.
Couldn't imagine. You got to see the pores under the pores.
Literally. But who said it? It was Marco.
Mhm.
Marco actually, because I remember. I can't remember.
Marco told me too. Marco told me to stop doing that too. He got on my ass.
So we were.
Shout out to Marco.
Shout out to Marco. No, we were having a whole conversation. I think it was at his home. Yeah, we were having a conversation about like why he shoots F. F.
He doesn't go below F4 either.
Yeah, something like that. I don't even know either. But he doesn't shoot. He doesn't shoot below it at the beach. Not only probably because of like the lighting and stuff like that, but he was like, he was talking about like the sand and why did the sand need to be blurred out? Because like I really wish I could remember exactly what he was talking about, but it had something to do with the sand. It had something to do with the detail. Like, there was just basically no reason for you to blur it out, and I was like,
Right.
that made so much sense. I wish I had it like quote for quote, but like what he said to me made so much sense, and ever since then, I was like, people ask me like, yeah, you shoot at like 1.2, and I'm like, no, I shoot like F5 and above all the time, everywhere.
A funny story about Marco. This happened like maybe 2 years ago, and I was super proud. I was at the beach, right, of course, and I did a shoot, and I sent the set to Marco. Like, Marco, check this out. I'm super proud of these photos. Right, it's a couple years ago, and I sent it to him through text, and he calls me. And he's like, hey, yo, you got a few minutes? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? He goes, are you sitting down? And I'm like,
no, that's
like,
how you
yeah.
know he's about to.
He went off on me. He goes, why is she so dark on the one side of her face? Why can't I see that? I don't even know where you're at. You can be in space right now. I have no idea. Why'd you go all the way down to Key Biscayne with a beautiful beach, a beautiful sunrise, beautiful everything, and you can't see it? You can't see any of that. Why would you waste your time and go all the way down there for these photos?
Yeah, 1.2.
I'm about 1 point. If my lens went to 1.2, I'm hitting 1.2, all right? And looking back at it, he's 100% correct. Why would you waste your time doing that? And that's a mistake that I think every single photographer has made in their beginning career.
They get caught up in that bulk of the dream.
Yeah, it has to be soft and dreamy background.
You can't see nothing.
You can't see shit. Like, why waste all that time to go somewhere to capture these photos with that location and not take advantage of it?
Yeah.
And also, when it comes to storytelling, you need to be able to see where they're at, right?
Yeah.
And now the only time I go below F4 is like if there's not enough light.
Yeah.
That's like the only time I go low, and even then I'm annoyed because usually if there's not enough light, that means there's nothing to see anyway. so now I'm annoyed. I didn't bring any lights with me. Now I'm pissed off. So it's like,
sense.
yeah. So young photographers out there, don't go below F4 or F5. You don't need to.
You don't need it. I feel like that was such an era, like several years ago, because when I started, fairy lights were a thing.
You remember that?
The spheres were a thing. And, shooting at like 1.4 and seeing like the bulk of all the lights.
And if you had a lens at 1.2, you were king.
Exactly.
You were the king.
Exactly. Everybody was like loving it. But I feel like because I don't see fairy lights ever again, like anymore at all.
I've never seen a fairy light.
I was this close, like the other week, to trying to like bring it back just for the one time, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just
Don't do it. Don't do it.
And I feel like that was like, who's a really dope photographer? I think I can't remember his name. Nope, lost it. Brandon Wolfel.
I don't know who that is.
He's a photographer based out of New York. Super dope. He's probably one of the only few people that I still see shoot at like 1.4 and 1.2, and he's big on like lights and stuff like that. His stuff is really, really dope, and I feel like that was that was like his dominant era back when those couple years ago, because he was still big on the fairy lights, and he just lights in general. Like that's where I pulled that inspiration from back when I was shooting like at 1.2 all the time, because I was like, yo, the lights look so sick. Like, how does he do that?
So soft.
When I first got my camera, my D3400, I had the kit lens, and I took my first couple photos of my first shoot, and I was like, yo, why
The kit doesn't go below like 5.6, right?
Yeah, and I was like, why does it look like this?
This is not blurry.
YouTube University, how to get blurry backgrounds in photos. Next thing you know, they're like, you need a 1.8 or a 1.4 lens. Bought a 1.8 lens, shot 1.8 for like an entire year.
Did that for so long.
Was heavily inspired by him and some other people. I mean, because it looks really cool. I still love like the dreamy look, which is why I like his work. But for me, I prefer to see it rather than shoot it. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Like, I'd rather shoot, f4 and above and just kind of see more stuff. But he still creates phenomenal work, so I enjoy looking at it.
I think I should rephrase that. Like, it's not a bad thing if you want to shoot 1.2 or 1.8, 1.4, whatever the case is. And I was talking to Ron. I don't know if you follow Ronald Wayne. Yeah. So I was talking to him, and he was saying, we're talking about what makes a good photo compared to a bad photo. And there are rules that you always want to abide by when it comes to photography, right? Well, they're rules, right? But if you break rules, which happens every single day when it comes to editing, like you want to have a photo that's white balanced, for example, correctly balanced out. But there are people who like their photos a lot more warm, or people who like their photos a lot cooler. Technically, right? It doesn't have a balanced white balance, so it's technically not a correct photo, right? Yeah. But screw it, right? What makes a good photo or a good photographer, good or bad, is intention. Right? If your intention is to have really, really deep shadows in your photos, right? And every single photo you hit, you have half their face super in the darkness, but that's your style. Guess what? That you're intending to do that. You did it on purpose. It's not a mistake in editing, right? If all your photos are 1.2, right, but you have cool lights and it's coming out in a way that it's appealing to the eye, and every single one of your photos have that, that's a stylistic choice at that point. You and I can clown it every now and then. We're like, oh, that's 1.2. But if that's what you want to see and how you edit, that's a choice. So it isn't a bad photo anymore. It's just how you style your shit. Like if you pick, I always use this example. If you have, there's a photographer out in Australia, I forget her name all the time, and she shoots in the desert. Her skies are non-existent. They're white. Now listen.
Blown out,
right? Blown out skies. You can't see anything. But every single one of her photos are blown out skies. She's choosing to do, and they're dope photos. I don't even know how she does it. Mm-hmm. That's a choice at that point. You're choosing to shoot where your skies are blown out. And at that point, I can't say shit. That's your style. Yeah. That's your choice. Now it's opinion. Everyone has an opinion now, right? But that's you. And so there is no good or bad photographer anymore, or good or bad photo. It's just what you decide to do.
Yeah, I agree. Because I feel like you can definitely see, I mean, you can maybe tell when somebody's experimenting and, wanting to try stuff, that's fine. Yeah. But I think, you can really tell when somebody's like, I'm doing this on purpose.
Yeah, this is why I'm doing it, because I want more out of focus photos now. That's a thing now.
It's a thing.
Out of focus vintage grain photos.
And I'm not going to lie. I mean,
you've done a couple, huh?
I've done.
It's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. It's dope. I think it's super cool.
I like when Kai Boa does it.
He's the only one who can do it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's cool when I see it. Yeah. But again, it's cool if it's intentional. Like, cool. Yeah. If that's your vibe, I fuck with it.
I think too, I feel like it's, not only is the intention important, but I feel like how you display your photos is just as important. Definitely. Because when I say, like, I like the way Kai Boa does it, I mean it in a sense of like, he might take two wide shots, right? Mm-hmm. There's models standing right in the center, and then you see the open fields of, where's he from?
Russia? Germany?
One of those. Yeah. I don't know. And then you'll see like the wide open fields, but the model's in focus. Mm-hmm. And then he'll do another photo, the model's not in focus, but everything behind is in focus. Right. I like seeing those two things together. And I feel like obviously that was his intention. But I feel like I would appreciate that more than just seeing the second photo where the model's not in focus versus seeing everything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the composition.
I feel like that shows me more of like, I feel like that in a sense gives me more of like the storytelling vibe that I like to see when I'm looking at photos, because like even though it might not say too much. Just me seeing the model and then the blurry background and then the blurry background and then the blurry model, then the background. I feel like that gives a lot more. So I mean, I feel like it's also like how you present your photos and your images together. But touching back on Marco, that's funny that he came for you like that. I mean, I feel like
Are you sitting down? Yeah, I'm sitting down. Okay, good.
I feel like that's a really good thing to have though, because now that I think about it, I mean, I've always, I mean, I haven't been obviously shooting for as long as some of these other guys that are out there, but I've kind of only done it all like myself, I guess, in a sense. And eventually I got to a point where like people have asked me, for like opinions or critiques on photos. And I've never actually like gone out of the way to do that, which I feel like I should, because I'm curious what people think. I mean, I wouldn't take it like offensively. I mean, because like photography is very, very opinionated. And I guess, depending on what it is that you want to do will also dictate like how you want to shoot. Like, for example, a good friend of mine, Juan's Visuals, my man. He I feel like, well, let's take Adidas for example. In order for you to like understand, like say you wanted to shoot for Adidas, I guess we can talk about that. You might look towards how Adidas shoots their campaigns and their photos, and you might tailor what you do to that, sort of that direction, so that way maybe one day that you can shoot that kind of stuff. Somebody like Juan, I've known him throughout the years, and I've seen his style develop towards this more commercial campaign sort of like stuff. And for what he does and how he shoots it and what I'm assuming he wants to do, I feel like that's right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like if you know what it is that you want to do, then having somebody like that is probably really good, because I feel like Marco he shoots very like
clean.
What's the word? I mean, clean for sure.
Super clean.
But like
editorial,
he looks like he should be shooting for like a very big brand, you know what I'm saying? Like one of those kind of like big old swim campaigns. And so if that was like your goal, because I don't know specifically at the time when he was telling you that, like what your vision or plan was, but if that was something that you wanted to do, having Marco, are you sitting down and ask you all of that? I feel like that's really good. That really helps.
The value there is insane.
Yeah, it'll help like get you in the right track. But like, listen, if you want to ever shoot this, you need to like change your brain and like not shoot at 1-2.
But we need that sometimes, because when you're looking at the mirror, you think you're the shit.
100%.
So it's not until you're around other people, you're like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. And that's okay, too, to be self-aware of your work and your level. But I think you should definitely still think you're the shit, but back it up, right? Like, talk a big game, but back up your work and back up with your work ethic and the way that you direct. And it's a combination of things that makes you dope, right?
At what point can you say, I am the shit?
You can say the moment you take your first photo, you can say this shit.
But like, at what point is like, for example, because when you say back it up, right? Like, I guess I'm thinking more like somebody who can back it up. I'm thinking Ronald Wayne at the moment.
Okay.
Because I feel like he's someone who is the shit and can definitely back it up, especially because he's got people like Serena Williams, in his line of work, and he shoots them constantly. So that's really what I was like kind of gravitating towards. Like, at what point? At what point do you know, like, you are like, I'm doing this for real, like I'm backing up what I'm doing and I'm shooting. Does that
makes a lot of sense? Yeah, like at what point do you think you've made it?
Yeah,
right. So I talked around. I was hanging out with Ron a couple of days ago. It's being creative, I feel like it's a journey of self-acceptance. Because I don't know too many creatives who are always happy with their work. Like it's happened to me before, and also Ronald, where it's you take a week to finish a set of photos, and you're super happy once you're done, and then a week later, you hate every single photo you shot and edited and posted. So I think even amazing photographers never feel like they've made it, right? Maybe you can pretend, right? We pretend like we do, but we in our heads we're always very, very self-critical, which I think it's a beautiful thing about being creative, and also a terrible thing because we're never truly 100% happy, right? And we can deliver work, and the models are super excited, and they're thanking you, and they think you're amazing. And in the back of our heads, we're like, we could have done this better here. I should have moved this out the way. Maybe if I edited her hair out over here, and we only see what's wrong.
It's crazy because I always when I'm editing my own photos too, I look at it sometimes and I'm like, did I do enough?
Right. Did I do enough, or did I not? Maybe I did too much,
Or maybe I did too much.
so there. It's always that balancing act of are we as good as we think we are? Because there are days, and you tell me if you feel that way. There are days where you think you're the shit, and there are days where you're like, man, I should go back. Maybe I should go to school and become an accountant. Like maybe I don't deserve that make camera. And I think so. Even with big photographers, like you're never 100% truly happy. And the only way you can base that is how, for me personally, in my opinion, is how you make others feel with your work. And so that's where it's been more important to me. It's if I deliver a set of photos and the model is truly happy. Like I had a girl, a model who I delivered work for maybe in the summer, and she texted me and she said, I've never felt beautiful until I saw these pictures. Right? And so you can't quantify that emotion as you can't measure that, right? How that person feels. But all you can do is say, wow, she feels great because of something that I helped bring out of her, because she's already beautiful, right? And she's a model who's modeled for years. So when I got that message, it's like, you've modeled with big photographers than me, and you're saying this is the first time I've actually felt attractive. And so that's what I look for now. And it's more individual case by case. It's how does this person feel about the images, and are they happy to post them? Like, you did a good work when the model posted photos right away. And that makes me feel really good. And you can't measure that. That's that's something that it's person by person. And then it's all about you taking that in and being grateful for the opportunity to create that. And again, going back to what we started off saying, you give the best you can in that moment. On every single shoot, you do the best you can, and you can't control anybody else, and you can't control whether they're on time. You can't control whether they're giving you the good energy. You can't control whether they're not hungover. You can't control any of that stuff, right? All you can control is your effort. And it's happened to me as well. All you can control is your effort at that time, and then your effort when you're editing and delivering that work. If you give all of yourself to that point, you can't expect anything more. And I think you can say that you're the shit when you're doing that consistently. And you can look back at your repertoire of work and you can say, yo, I did the very best I could in every single one of these shoots. I'm the shit because I've been consistent with myself and my craft and my creativity, and I work hard every single day. The follower count don't matter. The money in your bank account doesn't matter. When you get those messages saying, yo, I feel beautiful. These pictures are amazing. Thank you so much for these. You made that. Talk all that shit you want. Talk all that shit you want.
No, literally. What's your favorite part of the process? Like the shooting, or let's start farther back. The planning, the shooting, or the editing?
My favorite part. I like people a lot.
Okay.
So I guess shooting is my favorite part. So I'm taking a course right now on speech.
Okay.
Right. And I'm doing that because one of the things I want to work on myself, one of the things I believe I lack on, is communicating clearly. So I speak like 3 languages. And so sometimes I mumble in different languages, or I'm not clear about how I can speak, or I'm not as eloquent as I want to be. Like I think in my head I'm speaking very eloquently, and the model's like, can you say that again slower? And it's like, that's something that I need to work on, right? And so I'm seeing a speech coach to help me better express what I want to say in a way that, and even now I'm thinking, okay, slow down. Say every letter, when you're speaking, because I want to be a better communicator.
Better articulate your words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my favorite part of shooting is actually shooting, like being in front of somebody and directing what I see in my head, or posing, doing a weird pose. And I like that because I like people. So I enjoy that. I was in Utah again, going back to that, I was in Utah. So being able to travel to cool places and then shooting there and dealing with whatever you have to deal with in that moment, whether there's a sandstorm or there's, it's super hot or it's super cold, and being able to deal with whatever's happening, but still capturing a moment. I love that part. Editing takes a long time. It takes a very long time. So I don't know about you, but I have a lot of retouchers who retouch skin for me because that's just so tedious. And I know I'm not the best at retouching skin, so I'd rather outsource that to somebody who's way better than me at that. And then when I get the images back, and I work in color.
Okay.
So out of editing, I do love working color because that's where the mood comes in for me.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. But definitely for sure shooting. Shooting is my favorite.
I would agree with you. I would say shooting too, because it's crazy to think about like all of the experiences that I've had and have gotten just because I'm a shooter. You know what I mean? Like, before this, I was working as a shift manager at Amazon.
Nice. So you were working your ass off.
Yeah. We were working some crazy hours, like 2:40 in the morning to like 2 p.m. in the afternoon type stuff. Yeah.
It sounds like I don't.
And then I would go straight from shooting to straight from Amazon to either a shoot. If I didn't have a shoot, I'd be editing. And then from there, I just go dance.
Oh yeah, you dance too.
Correct.
Very cool. So can you like salsa, bachata?
No. If you tell me how to do it, or if you do it with me, I can do it. Yeah. But can I do it good? Nah. I'm primarily more like hip hop.
So if I ask you to do a backflip, you're doing a backflip and everything.
Maybe back in the day. I used to do parkour back in high school. But because of track and field, I didn't want to hurt myself doing all those flips and the tricks and stuff like that. So I stopped. But mostly hip hop and, reggaeton. I dive into house every night.
Okay.
Stuff. But hip hop was probably my main background. But yeah, no. So my schedule was airtight. And then once I finally just said screw it and let go of Amazon, having all that, I wouldn't say extra time because I put that time towards doing everything else that I needed to do photography related, but just getting the opportunity to travel to different states and just go to different places and meet different people and shoot different people and just different areas in general. It's been a crazy experience. I feel like you can't, it just doesn't compare to anything. Cause I enjoy doing exactly what you were just saying, doing the weird poses and just interacting with other people of different, whatever the case may be. And it's been a lot of fun. So I definitely enjoy the shooting aspect of photography. Editing. Yeah, it takes a very, very long time, but I also enjoy that a lot too. I couldn't really tell you. I think I enjoy shooting a little bit more than I enjoy editing, but coming from just an editing background, being an AMV editor, I've always found the editing tedious, but the end result,
it's always a good time.
It is when I'm able to for starters, when I'm able to film exactly how I want to film something, and then come back and put it together on top of this super dope song that hopefully doesn't get copyrighted and mold it in a way where it conveys exactly what I want it to. That makes me feel good because it feels like I actually put in the work and the effort. That doesn't really get appreciated anyway because we're all about short form content right now.
Unfortunately,
but I don't know. It's just something about that part of it too. It's just it gets me. You know what I mean? Okay. But I still think I prefer shooting over editing because sometimes I can be in front of the computer for days. I'm not gonna say hours. I'm just gonna say days. Easily.
Just finding the song. Just finding the song.
Luckily, yeah, nope, 100%. Because for me too, videos aren't and it's crazy. I find myself because of Reels and TikTok. I've always been a video person, so I'm not gonna say that. It has, but I'm not gonna say that. The whole push to video has influenced me to do more of it. But it's crazy to see that I can post a 15-second one take clip of a model in slow motion and I get 100,000 views. but something that I put blood, sweat, and tears into. I'm talking like the song matches to the point where like this sunset in this low angle shot matches the like the higher pitching of the song. Like the song is getting to this epic moment in the sun, and the angle and the camera motion is showing that epic movement. And I piece those together, and she looks right on this lyric and she blinks right on this sound. Like I'm talking like to the T sometimes. And it's just a lot of stuff that just goes unnoticed and unappreciated. I'm like, I just
I had to go to therapy over this video that I edited, okay? And they got 50 views. I don't
like, and I know at the end of the day, we're not doing it for the views and for all the people, but like, to an extent, yes, you are. I feel like I'm doing it for myself, but I do kind of want someone to see it too. And
yeah,
like, feel what I feel.
At least notice it.
At least notice it. Like, but yeah, videos like that, like when it goes, you just miss a lot of stuff. Like I feel like, I mean, I don't know, because obviously I can't know everybody in the comments or what everybody's looking at. But even like Danny Batista's video, shout out to Danny.
Shout out to Danny.
He's done some like videos and added his own sounds, whether they be actual sounds that are happening or like sounds you pull in from somewhere else. But like I feel like a lot of people don't catch like those sounds and like those little hints of like, even when I feel like your subconscious does. So that's maybe why you appreciate the video at the time. But like there was this one video he filmed in a room and there was just like a bunch of different film sounds, and like even the sound when the girl jumped on the pillow, like you heard it's like super subtle, but like it's there. Like I appreciate those kinds of moments, those kinds of things, because like,
well, I think
it just adds to it. You know what I mean?
Well, Danny does those things for you, less than for like the models who watch it. Like,
no, for sure.
That's one of the things I don't know if I'm gonna get trash for saying this, but I appreciate it. I'm scared. I appreciate it more when a photographer enjoys a body of work that I do than a model, because I know that the photographer notices things that I may have done that a model wouldn't probably notice. Like a model would notice her face or her body, how she's shaped, whatever. But a photographer is going to notice like switches in temperature, or they'll notice a sound that we added, afterwards, and small things like that. So when somebody does notice it, it's like, oh wow.
I don't think it's a bad thing to. I don't think you get trashed for it. I feel like we're in different lines of work, so we obviously are going to appreciate different things. Like I feel like, when a model looks at another model's photo, they might look at it differently than a photographer looks at a photo.
For sure.
We're looking at all the. I've been there before. I know there's a light pole out there that he edited out. You know what I mean? And the model is looking like, whoa, she really knows how to like work her angles or work her features in a way that like maybe that she wants to improve on, or whatever the case may be. So like, I feel like there's always something that each demographic can appreciate, but that's just because we come from different backgrounds. You know what I mean?
I love that. I think you said that perfectly.
I saved you. Don't worry.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming to the show. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the conversation, your stories, your energy, your input. Thank you so much. I'm super excited to continue seeing your work, and hope to have you on here again if you're willing.
Thanks for having me. We've been talking about linking for the longest time.
I know.
Finally got a chance to do it. So
man, thank you so much, brother. Thank you.